Good evening. I'm Kamalika on behalf of Artscape. I welcome you to another edition of our series, Stories of Impact. It is my absolute pleasure to welcome this evening's guest, Bhavna Isar. Bhavna, we welcome you into this conversation.
I'm delighted to be here.
And thank you so much for your time. For all our guests who are watching, Bhavna has chosen to move ahead from a career in HR to create a very unique foundation called Caregiver Sathi. Her focus of work is extremely unique because she has chosen to handhold caregivers, a population who really and truly needs attention. Caregiver Sathi, headed by Bhavna, emotionally supports, gives counseling, and trains caregivers so that not only can they nurture well-being of others, but can also nurture and support their own self. Bhavna, I would like to ask you at the very beginning that your work is so niche and the focus is so unique. I would like to know that if you just go back to the time that you started this foundation and tell us how and why did you choose this unique population to work with?
Sure. Thank you so much, Kamalika. I'm so, reminded of the conversation that you and I had a little while ago. It seems like a little while ago, but it also seems like about a year and a half ago. So I'm happy to share what brought me to Caregiver Sathi. And my story is this that many years of working in the corporate world felt like I was not feeding my soul, and I was perhaps in a midlife crisis. And I really needed to find something that would lend me a purpose, a meaning that I would feel good about. So I had to invest a little bit in my personal growth. And one of the experiential labs that I attended through the organizations in which I have trained, that's Sumedhas, my mentor Raghu asked me this question that what would be your dharmic life, or what would be a life of dharma that you would like to lead? And I did not have a good answer. And this question led me to explore what has been my life experience. So 21 years ago to this year, in 1999, I lost my dad to a terminal illness. Very, very rare even today, but even rarer in those years. It's called multiple system atrophy. And I do think that for an Indian Air Force officer pilot who was strapping strong, quite the backbone of a family, to suddenly contract this neurological condition, and for us as a family to see his health deteriorate over a period of 5 years, to an extent that he was a sound body in at the age of 54, he was a sound mind in the body of a 95-year-old. And it comes with its own challenges. And I wanted to honor his memory, and I wanted to do something that I could remember him by. So I first started looking around the medical condition that he had, which was multiple system atrophy. And what I realized was that I wasn't very close to that medical condition. I It was my mother who had really looked after him. And what my real life experience was being a caregiver to a caregiver. And as I thought about it, I felt that maybe my life purpose could be if I could put together my education, my corporate experience of building an organization with my life experience of having been a caregiver to a caregiver. then, and I really saw that there was actually very sparse, let's say, support to family caregivers tend to be deeply entangled because of their roles, their being mothers, wives, daughters, sons, husbands, but they don't have as much of an ecosystem of support for themselves, because very often patients get priority, and the well-being of the patient is significantly dependent on the well-being of the caregiver, and our healthcare systems do not cater for it. So it felt like this was the right place, and so we started.
Bhavna, you can see that, I just, even when we had, met you, I had shared the same thing. Because what you were saying resonates with me big time, because I've seen my father who had Parkinson's, and I saw how his body deteriorated, and with his body, his mind was impacted as well. And during the last years that he was, with us, I saw that, yes, of course, that Baba, it was very difficult for us to see Baba like that. But I understand, like you said, that it was, I think it was my mother who was actually, his caregiver. I would say emotional caregiver, because so I think that it was hardest on her. And at one point, Bhavna, that I we saw that she was also getting the same kind of symptoms in which was actually, we later learned that this happens, you would know. But at that point of time, we did not understand that, because she was also becoming very slow in her movements. So there were some things that we saw that Baba going through, we saw her going through as well, after which the doctor explained to us that, why that happens. And I also so I totally resonate with what you're saying, and also understand that, whatever it is, we still have a job to go back to, we still have a, our own nuclear families to look after. Daughters are a distraction, but for Ma, her life was with Baba, and my mother was a homemaker, and so her life was within those walls and with Baba and with us, me and my brother getting married in a way, setting up our own homes. So I totally understand. And they themselves, see, I think many people do not understand that they also need to take care of us themselves. So that's where that happens. Yes. Bhavna, so thank you so much for sharing, because I know it's personal, and I can go on talking about, because how it is, parents, they never go away. They're always living in our hearts. So, and I think that, so when you shared initially your work, Bhavna, I thought that what a beautiful thought, that caregivers, need that attention. And if you please share with us that this pandemic, in that perspective, in today's time, in this challenging, where for each one of us it's a challenge, we are having to learn and unlearn so many things to be able to just navigate and move ahead, and in this context, what are your views? How are you seeing caregivers in particular getting impacted?
You know, we never apply for the job of a caregiver,
Yes, true.
but it lands in our laps.
Correct.
And I think when I first started out, I used to take very long to explain to people that actually the caregiver is invisible, unrecognized, underappreciated, and underserved. A large number of people, even today, contact me thinking that I'm a caregiver providing agency. A lot of people don't see themselves as caregivers because we live in a culture where we have stories of Shravan Kumar and Savitri, and we have a certain cultural fabric where family does caregiving, and caregiving is seen as a noble act, it is fairly intertwined with family roles. Um, Caregivers of terminally ill people have unique circumstances. This pandemic, interestingly, has given each one of us a peek into the life of the caregiver. Think about it. A caregiver experiences the unpredictability, experiences the anxiety, experiences the social isolation, experiences the lack of access to care or resources because of distancing, because of unavailability, what have you, experiences hypervigilance because there is this fear of death and dying that is perpetually hanging on your head. Now this life of a family caregiver of someone who is terminally ill or has chronic conditions is something that actually, thanks to the pandemic, each one of us has become sensitive to. So I think the pandemic has, and I experienced COVID as a long distance caregiver myself, and I feel the sheer experience of your helplessness and the fact that you have to surrender is highlighting to us that the myth of thinking that we are in control. So learning to surrender, learning to feel that we might not be in control is something that we all need to learn, and this pandemic is highlighting that. So I see that at one level the jobs of family caregivers have become exponentially harder because they don't have help. It's tiring and it's never ending. But at the same time, it has also given many people the sensitivity and the real life experience of what a caregiver goes through.
Totally, totally. That's really, it's, I think, like you said, that, there's two things that are happening simultaneously. And that's true of the pandemic or the lockdown as well. It's kind of shown us two different perspectives to
Yeah,
life as well, you see. And what we are taking out of it, or what we are actually imbibing and going ahead with, is depending on, our environment and the person that we are.
absolutely.
It's so I feel that however hard it has been, it's actually been a leveler in many ways.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. I agree with you.
So, Bhavna, Artscape works in the space of emotional management. So we speak to beneficiaries how to handle their emotions, as in to recognize emotions in the first place, because we more often than not we are not we don't acknowledge them, accept them, not and don't delve deeply into our fears, our anxieties, our angers, our tearfulness, the entire gamut of emotions.
Yes.
So our sessions that we do are to get in touch with, it's a journey within yourself, to first be aware, accept, acknowledge, and then work on your emotions, how to handle them. And so one of our core work is with patients
Hmm.
of cancer, particularly. That's where we started our journey actually, and also of other chronic diseases. And we have also focused a lot on the caregivers. So when we have began our work, and we went to these homes in and around the Tata Memorial Hospital. I'm talking about cancer patients here. So there, these residential homes allow the patient with their family. So whether it was a home which had children as patients, so there was the parent. Where there is, in other, where there are adults, so there is, if there is the wife, there's the husband, the wife, vice versa. So it was a So initially, when we started out, we were focusing on just the patients. But in 2 3 months time in the course, because you know what happens, these are residential homes, so if you're calling the patient, the caregiver would also come and sit in the sessions, and we would always welcome them. Then in the course of sharing, all that you said, just became very, very visible to us, that this is how much the caregiver wants acknowledgement,
Yeah, absolutely.
because he or she is a different individual in his or her right. And here, saying that they are putting their life on hold
Yes.
for somebody else, and that there is no recognition or acknowledgement for that. It's not that they're crying out for that, but what is happening is, because they are not getting accepted or acknowledged, so that is getting translated in anger issues.
Resentments.
That is getting, yes, resenting, so there is the the, and then, so then there is a whole fluidity of emotions going from the one person to the other. So there is a sense, we something that we saw a lot is guilt. So the wife who's unwell is feeling guilty that, why am I alive, and because my husband has to leave his job and come and be here with me, or my family had to spend so much money to be here with me, vice versa. So there is a, so we realize that they are losing focus from the real problem. The problem is the disease, and that disease has not been brought upon, this has just happened. It's not something that somebody has consciously brought upon their own self and the family. So then we realize that, what is this, why are you feeling guilty? This is not your own doing. So focus away from that. Or when somebody, we saw a lot of anger issues happening, from anger violence issues. So there was and then there is the, because of these unmet, unrecognized emotions, so there was a whole, families were, I felt, were falling apart, just because they could not recognize what is happening.
Kamalika, anger is the guardian of sadness or grief.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So, what really happens in the case of a caregiver is what gets expressed and what emanates in the form of anger or resentment or lack of acknowledgement are at the top. And you work with this stuff, so you know this, that you have to delayer it. And when you delayer it, you actually realize that anger is merely an expression of protecting yourself from the deep sadness and the deep grief that caregivers go through. We associate grief with once the loss has happened. But when it is terminal illness or it is chronic conditions, caregivers experience complicated grief or anticipatory grief. And complicated grief or anticipatory grief almost feels illegitimate to express. And because it is illegitimate to express your sadness of your loss of, the person is not the same that you knew, your dreams, your hopes, many things. Maybe your career is on hold, maybe your social relationships are lost, maybe your financial status is lost. That grief has no place to go and gets expressed through resentment, anger, frustration, and it needs to be and we live in a society where sometimes these expressions are termed negative,
Hmm.
right? Like, it's you're such a great thing that you have to look after so and so, it's a blessing, blah blah blah. That is true. That is definitely true. It's a spiritual journey to be able to care for another person. But at the same time, we are human beings. So we will have all these other emotions as well. And I do think that at the core of it is grief.
Absolutely. I absolutely so. Bhavna, there's another thing that, it just came, I've been thinking about, is that, this pandemic has, you touched upon this also, that this pandemic has actually made us all caregivers.
Yes.
Look at us at, we at our nuclear families. See, now, if it's my husband, my daughters, or my immediate family, so is yours. So in some way, because we are all closed into one space, and life is not the same, workspaces are have shifted.
Yes.
So I feel that now we are all having to kind of handhold each other.
Yes.
Would you agree that
Absolutely.
so that also is it's not always very it's not always very easy,
It is.
because this is not something like at times I suppose I'm saying that I'm just taking it into another zone from caregiving of ill people, but I'm saying that the pandemic has shifted the focus, I think that to everybody. If you look at it, that now as to we are playing so many roles at this point in our life, of being not only parent, of being becoming a teacher, because I to teach my my younger daughter standard 4. It's like I realized that I have it's like I don't know how to be a teacher in the how the school teacher would be. I see that I don't have that kind of patience, not that kind of skill as well.
Yes.
And also that being together in some spaces, there are like bouts of irritability. There is at times of anger, at times of like you want your me time, you want to be alone for a bit, and these things are happening. And that is also realization that who's somebody who's the caregiver in that, how we are meaning it to be. So it is actually giving us a glimpse of their life as well, that stuck to somebody, thinking that this is my responsibility, this is my karma, this is my destiny, this is what I'm meant to do. But actually it's so hard, because that person is also putting their dreams and their life on hold.
I have three things to say. One, I have been very inspired by this quotation, and you may have heard me say this before, but I will say it. There are only four kinds of people in this world: those who have been caregivers, those who are caregivers, those who will be caregivers, and those who will need caregivers. Rosalind Carter, who is a big advocate of caregivers and wife of ex President Jimmy Carter, said this. And I think there is nothing that describes caregiving better than this. The second thing that I would say is, although the times have been uncertain, unprecedented, difficult, challenging, unpredictable, what we find is, one would think that our coming together as humanity would be a lot more. There are so many examples of how people have come together in solidarity, but there are also equally number of heartbreaking instances of people losing empathy and actually having high degree of apathy. So the second thing that I want to say is that we have a very high degree of compassion deficit, and
Mm.
compassion can be learned. It's a learnable skill. Both compassion means, and that's my third point, compassion for another cannot come until you are compassionate towards yourself. So, my third thing would be that self care is a practice, it is not selfishness, it's an act of compassion, and we have to all learn how to exercise self care.
Absolutely, Bhavna. I am like in total agreement with you. And self care, once again, is a very important part of the sessions that Artscape delivers,
Yes.
because we feel that the individual, the self, that's where it all starts. If I am kind to myself, if I am empowered myself, if I am confident about myself and I am in control of my emotions and I am well balanced in my mind and in my body, only then can I step up to do my duties, not only as a caregiver, but as a family person. I can do my best in my personal as well as my professional life. So it all begins with me as an individual. So I need, and there is 100% or 200%, people should not hesitate to take the time to for self-care, for self-redemption. It's very, very important. And I don't know why people don't pay attention. It's the same thing, Bhavana, I want to discuss with you, is that, I don't understand why people don't take care of their own selves, take care of their own mind. Why is mental well-being or mental health still so much, there is so much taboo around it and not people's priority?
I can share my perspective and I can tell you that what my struggles with self care have been. So I may be propagating this and I know that this is an important thing, but I think that I struggle with self care as much as anybody. So while I do say this is important, I must acknowledge that I'm one of the worst in self care myself. Uh, I definitely need to do better, for example, for my physical fitness. I definitely need to exercise more than I certainly do right now. It becomes hard for me because there is some kind of an orientation in my mind that there are some other tasks that are more important than I am. So I am unconsciously deprioritizing myself, but only when I do some reflective exercises. So, for example, if I journal, which I'm not very good with, I journal irregularly, but when I journal, I realize that, okay, maybe I need to get back to my fitness. When I meditate, it reminds me that, listen, I'm ignoring myself. Every time I indulge in my hobbies, and I know that Artscape and encourages an expression through art and a creative expression, because that speaks to our unconscious far better than words can. And I think that that reminds me that, listen, I will not be sustainable if I do not look after myself. So the only point that I'd like to make is that it will not be perfect. Although I promote it, I am not perfect at it. We are all on our journey so long as we can keep it in our awareness. Self care is not selfishness. Compassion does not mean the other person has to come before you, it is that and you at the same time.
Bhavna, once I was having a conversation. So this whole self-care, being selfish, this conversation came up. So I told this other person, I said, you know what? If you think that it is, you don't have time for yourself, if you think that, there's so many other people that you have to keep before you. So, and you feel that it's selfish, somewhere you're holding back because you're thinking that maybe, so I said that, okay, look at it like this, look at it as something, it's selfish, but also understand that this time or this act or this thing that you're going to do for yourself, that will help you do whatever for in what you want to do for the others as well. Because if you are good, that's where you can help others. I said so it's like at times you have to talk to somebody from the other personal point of view. That's all right if it's feel that way, but then do it in thinking like that, but ultimately it's going to be beneficial for you. And Bhavna, as you mentioned, of course, Artscape, we use art. So again, creative writing, journaling is a big part of our work, because we feel that it's very important to be able to get it out of our system. If you mean that, express it. I know, and you mentioned it here as well, that you had two very close members in your family who had recovered from COVID. I can only imagine that it must have been a very harrowing time. But you fought through it, your family members fought through it, and it has had a happy ending. But Bhavna, it is important that you step back to sometime mull over everything that you have gone through during this time. Because as movement therapy says, as expressive art says, that all our memories are placed in our body and our mind, in our body also. So, and it is very important to be able to express. Again, unexpressed emotions can lead to unhealthiness.
Yes.
So we say that listening to music is one option or one task that we do. All of us have access to YouTube on our phones. Just listening to music when we need to calm down. Just breath awareness, taking deep breaths can calm ourselves down in any situation, whether we are traveling, whether we are sitting somewhere. You will see that just so our work at the end of every session, we give people very, very simple tips, which can be, that doesn't need money, that just needs a little bit of attention and time, that you sit and do this for yourself. Journaling, yes. Movement, as in, even to try walking in the house, stooped, stretched hands, simple things, walking fast, walking a little slow, walking on your toes. Of course, music I mentioned, art, just picking up and doodling. You don't even need a box of crayons or a box of color pencils, nothing, a pen and paper, and you just doodle. It's a lot of fun, as well as a lot of, it's a great way to relax. So Bhavna, you should also try all of this.
I should. And, it's interesting that you should mention this because I find so many points of intersection in how you and I,
Yes,
approach things.
yes.
We have a framework of well-being, which has 7 elements of well-being. And, somebody can take that tool to understand what level of stress you might be at. One of the elements of well-being is your creative expression. And creative expression is not performing arts. I think a lot of people misunderstand
Yes.
creative expression to be like only if it is of a certain level.
Right. Hmm.
It's cooking every day, it's gardening, it's how you keep your home, which could be your creative expression. So
Absolutely. And Bhavna, before we end our conversation, I want to ask you that uh, during this period, what has been your coping mechanism? How have you kept yourself well?
I spoke about the fact that my husband was traveling and my father-in-law was very unwell, and he happened to have COVID, and then my husband also had COVID, and that was a little bit of a tough time. And as you rightly pointed out, and I must have a separate conversation with you about it, which is that when you're going through that experience, and maybe because I've had life experience of dealing with crisis or trauma or whatever, my approach was to first just narrow down what I need to do. So I like drew boundaries about what I could do or not do. So I think the first thing to recognize is for your coping is it's okay to let go some things. You cannot do everything. Draw your boundaries, say only what is essential. So for me at that time, what was most essential was my well-being and my daughter's well-being. So, and any just small professional engagements that I had committed to, and they were time bound. So I just did only that. I gave up everything else. I focused on my health. Although I had been irresponsible with my medication, I am a high BP patient. So I got back, got back to my routine, focused on myself, and coped by taking help. I asked for help. So a lot of people helped me by what I could ask for. So I think my coping mechanism was also asking for help, narrowing down what I could do, focus on what was important, and I definitely did physical and meditative exercises. So that was my way of coping. Clearly, when I was going through it, it didn't feel, it just felt like I was so helpless, I could only take one day at a time. So I used to remind myself, if this day has gone well, that's good. Let's just take the next 1 hour. Let's just take the next 1 hour. And that is how I coped. Actually, frankly, when I speak about it later, now I look back on it, it feels far more burdensome than it did then.
That, you know. So, as we began by saying that this time has been one of great learning, uh, challenges, as well as a lot of positive things. There are a lot of occasions, lot of instances where by which we are being able to look at our individual self in a new perspective, learning new things about our own self, our own journeys, our own strengths and weaknesses. And I feel that in the new world that's going to open up whenever it does, I think that we are going to enter it as with a shift in our mental space. I feel that we would have started off, or we start again, somewhat looking at everything in a different way. I would like to thank all of you who have watched this conversation and who are going to watch it because it's going to stay in our pages, and both of us are going to share it ahead. And so this conversation with Bhavna was primarily focused on caregivers. So if you are a caregiver, if you know a caregiver, or if you are somebody or you know somebody who would like to reach out to either me or to Bhavna, you can write on the comment box and we will be very, very happy to reach out and handhold you or just have a conversation. And do remember that what we are saying in our these live conversations, that do take care of yourself. It is important to engage and express your emotions, and reiterating one more time that self-care is important. Do take that time out for yourself. And thank you, Bhavna, for this conversation. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It has been a pleasure. I feel like I was having a chat with a friend. So I have loved this. Thank you for the opportunity.
Great, great.